Hello and welcome to Survivors. Here we talk about spirituality and how that we can obtain wisdom to apply to our lives every day so that we can be spiritually balanced and successful in everything that we are doing in our life. Today we're going to talk about how do we heal past wounds. And so, if this sounds interesting to you, what we are going to discuss is what we need to do in order to stop beating ourselves up, in order to get our peace and joy back, and some very practical steps that we can take to begin our healing journey and to know that we can heal and to enjoy this spiritual journey. So, the first thing that we want to establish when we are dealing with hurt within ourselves and struggle, and we are feeling that we can't move on, one of the first things that we want to do in this process is to spiritually surrender. And in just a moment, I will explain more what that means. We are going to take you through an acronym that I have entitled SPIRIT. And so, in each letter, we're going to learn something that we can apply today and moving forward in our lives and trying to find spiritual balance and especially to heal from past wounds. So, firstly, the letter S stands for spiritually surrendering. And what do we mean by spiritual surrender? We certainly do not mean that we are going to be taken advantage of. In other words, that person that is always asking us for favors and we do it because we want to show empathy. That's just an example. There could be other things that we are surrendering or sacrificing too much of our time and energy, and it begins to weigh on us instead of trying to help others. These are kind of things that I'm talking about when people are taking advantage of you. And you know, especially friends and family and also maybe our intimate partners, they can at times, take advantage of certain things that we have to offer. And so this is where we have to be careful. But what we're talking about is spiritual surrender. This is where we accept the situation as it is, we embrace it. So if we had a past trauma, if we had a past incident that we're not proud of, and we are allowing that past to enter into our mind and our body, and we can feel it in the body, those negative emotions that sit in our stomach, we certainly can feel those things. And so I want to enlighten you that the first thing that we have to do is to accept the situation. It's a sort of characteristic of humility. It's that spirit of humbleness. And we accept that this is my life situation and I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to gossip to my friends and family about the situation. We are going to accept that this has entered into our life, and we are going to have now confidence and a game plan to take ourselves through the healing journey. And so spiritual surrender is the first step, and it's not that spiritual surrender where we are being taken advantage of. The next letter is P in the word spirit, which stands for presence. Have you ever found yourself ruminating so much about the past and even the future that it starts to distract us in a certain way that we cannot focus on what is in front of us? And what I mean by this is that past that wants to come and haunt you. It wants to come and try to destroy your mind and your body. And it's trying to just get you to not be happy, not have peace and joy. You remember that old saying that says that the thief comes to destroy and to take away your peace and joy, but I have come to give you life. What does this mean? Let's take a moment in the letter P for presence to understand spiritually the teaching that is behind there. In the world, there is chaos and constant things happening every day. We are being bombarded in our finances. We are being bombarded in our relationships. We are being bombarded in all areas of our lives. And sometimes that is designed to test our spiritual strength. And so, what are we going to do in those times? Are we going to give in into the spiritual attacks? Are we going to give in into victimization and self sabotage? Because that's what life is designed to do. It comes and tests us to see whether we are going to stand in that situation. So the thief comes to destroy, but life, this is the important contrast, comes to give you not only life, but comes to give you life abundantly. In other words, life wants to present to you happiness. It wants to present to you abundance and success. And instead of surviving, we are thriving and we are staying spiritually balanced in the present moment. And so, in the present moment, there is no room for thinking too much about the past. There is no room of thinking too much about the future. We accept our current situation and we make a game plan to get ahead. So, this is living in the present moment. In other words, yes, sometimes the past is necessary to reference. Sometimes we have goals and we are thinking about the future. But we are talking about when it becomes so incessive that we cannot enjoy what's in front of us. We are blind to the joy and the peace that is right here. And of course, other characteristics of expressing gratitude every day is what can help us to live in the present moment. Part of the spiritual journey, so far, what we have seen in trying to heal wounds from the past, is that we spiritually surrender that those things happened. They are reality. And now it is time to gather our spiritual strength. We do that by demonstrating the spirit of humbleness, and then we live in the present moment. So the letter I in the word spirit stands for internalize. And I do understand that when we use this word, it could mean that someone has gave us criticism and we don't know how to process it, and we begin to believe it as true. And that can come from our partner, that can come from our family or friends or a coworker or a boss that is criticizing you, and you begin to internalize it. And I know that that is in a negative aspect. So what I want to do with the letter I is to do the opposite of that. When we internalize, we believe that we can have peace in our lives from those past wounds that we're trying to heal from. We can learn about what limiting beliefs are and understand that when we have limiting beliefs, we are doing just that. We are taking away from the talents, from the gifts that we have to offer in life. So instead of internalizing negatively, what we do instead is we take that thought, we take that negative criticism, and we smash it, and we instead embrace positivity, that I do have the talents to accomplish this goal that I've always wanted to in life. I do have the skills and the characteristics. And if I have flaws and if I have weak points and if I have things that I lack, I'm going to work on those areas of my life. If I need to become more skillful in a set of work or at a job or a personal goal, I'm going to make a plan to become more refined and more precise in those areas of my life. And so instead of internalizing negatively, we internalize goodness, we internalize confidence, and we are able to take now the path to believe that I can and that I am able. Spiritually surrendering, living in the present moment, internalizing positively, and now the R, one of the most important letters in this process of healing past wounds, is to now begin to renew the mind. And there is another old saying from an ancient writer that says, be renewed by your mind so that you can prove goodness. And I'm paraphrasing the statement there. What we learn from this spiritual teaching is that it all begins with the mind. But let's take a moment to understand deeper what we are talking about in this context about the mind. The mind is a tool that we use every day in our life to make decisions. I wonder if I should purchase this home. I wonder if I should engage in this relationship intimately. I wonder if I should start dating again. You know, these are all things that the mind is trying to process. And I want to take a moment to separate the mind from consciousness, because consciousness is not necessarily the mind that we use and the tool that we use every day. Consciousness involves the mind, the body, and the spirit, and we become spiritually balanced when we are able to address all three. This is the human constitution, in that we are three parts, and I like to phrase this the tripartite being. And that means that we are using all levels of the body and the mind and the spirit to make decisions. And so I like to submit to you that when we are trying to change something, to heal from a past wound, to stop that hurt and that pain already, and to begin to live the life that you deserve as a human being, this is where it happens. It happens with the mind, the body, and the spirit. And some also like to use the word soul. This is what we are made of. We are light. And the true source of light, I like to say that it comes from the universe and it emits down as a ray and shines through us and upon us. And we are light. And we can see this in other people, that they are joyful, that they are spiritually balanced, and we begin to feel that good vibe from them. And that, I believe, is pure consciousness that is shining through them. And in consciousness, there cannot live darkness. In consciousness, there cannot live unhappiness. In consciousness, there cannot live these things that try to destroy us. And when you think about sadness and happiness, yes, we have to experience both. In order to appreciate happiness, we have had to at one time experience sorrow and sadness. And this is what life is made of. In order to, in a simple example, to appreciate light and day, we have to have experienced darkness. I know that's a very simple example, but remember, when we are feeling pain and suffering, we feel lost. And if we just reference back to consciousness and separate the mind and the body and live in pure consciousness, that is going to help us to get our joy back. When we are trying to heal that wound that maybe somebody keeps picking at, or maybe something keeps triggering it, we need to do the spiritual work and come back to base, come back to spirituality, and realize that in that moment when you are feeling that in your body, all those negative emotions, we come back and say, I'm in the light. I'm in consciousness. I have the ability as a tripartite being to stand and stand with all in my mind, body, and spirit. Because again, we all deserve happiness. We all deserve a good life. And we don't want the chaos of this world to leave us in depression. We don't want the chaos of the world to leave us in anxiety, in all these things that are weighing on us every day. We have the spiritual power to overcome. So, what have we seen so far? Spiritual surrender, demonstrating humbleness, living in the present moment, not thinking too much about the past and future, internalizing and believing that you can heal, renewing the mind, as we have just discussed. And last but not least, as we go to the other I before we hit the T, and stay with me because the T is going to be powerful, and that's where true change comes. The I in this context stands for implementing. So, in other words, we have to take the knowledge, we have to take the understanding, and when we put those two spiritual ingredients together, what do we get? We get wisdom. Wisdom is knowledge and understanding applied. And this is how we can be successful in many areas of our lives. Wisdom is being able to choose the best course of action in any given situation. When we feel lost, when we feel like we're in a dilemma, practice is going to help us make decisions in our lives. And this is what the I is. We implement everything that we are learning through wisdom, and we apply it in a powerful way by receiving education, by receiving meditation or applying meditation, and of course, application, which is that we practice every day. We implement. This is the powerful I. We implement everything that we are learning. We can't just watch YouTube videos and just take the information and let it sit there. We can't just read an amazing book from an author that we enjoy and just let the information sit there in the bank. We have to cash out on that spiritual wisdom and become spiritually abundant and rich. And this is how the process of healing past wounds begins its path. And when we take this concept and this teaching of wisdom in a deeper sense, wisdom makes reference to in the old times where they use ropes to bring in a vessel or a boat, and the rope was symbolic of wisdom. It guided that boat or that vessel onto shore safely. And so this is wisdom. And you may remember the incident or more than one incident where captains of their ship have deviated from their course for some reason, and they did not have a tugboat or a guide to bring them in. And so they collided with objects that were in front of them, and some have collided with even bridges, causing even cars to crash into the ocean or into the water. And so this is, of course, a drastic example, but yes, life presents drastic situations that are here to test us. And so wisdom is going to guide us and be the light for us, and so that we can navigate and not deviate from our course of action. And so wisdom is what enters into our mind and our body and our spirit, and we become that wisdom. We become that light, and we begin to guide even ourselves from healing past wounds or whatever may be weighing on your mind, body, and spirit. This is how we begin our spiritual journey. And what is the end result as we now share the final letter in the word spirit, T? What is the outcome When we spiritually surrender, live in the present moment, we believe that we can, we renew the mind, and we put a powerful practice of wisdom into place. What is the result? The result is spiritual transformation. And we hear this from many spiritual leaders. We hear this from other teachers that we enjoy hearing and following. We hear this from motivating speakers or those inspiring speakers that are trying to teach us how to transform. We even hear it in the health industry or in fitness where we're trying to transform our body. And what is the thing that you have to do there? You have to exercise, you have to eat right, and have a powerful discipline and mindset. It is the same with our spiritual life. When we apply all these steps, this is the process, the spirit transformation process. We now begin to shape and mold into a totally different being. And now we are no longer those negative thoughts. We are no longer that negative past. We are new creatures. We are now the conscious creature that is aware that they are aware and that they are beaming with light. And we are now able to transform our lives from whatever is trying to bring us down. So, this is the spirit process, the spirit program per se. And I know that when we have past wounds, it's a very sensitive situation. It's a very delicate topic, and sometimes we don't want to open up to people or even therapists or even family or friends. But I want to encourage you that if you're dealing with wounds in your life, it's time to start your healing journey. It's time to start living life joyfully and get the peace that you deserve here in your spirit. And I hope that this spirit process or this program will be of benefit to you and to many others. If you like spiritual content like this and discussions like this about spirituality and applying them to our lives so that we can be thriving instead of surviving, subscribe to Surviving Ears. And I appreciate you watching, and I appreciate all your support.